Okay, I'm really excited to be here. Welcome. It's an honor and a pleasure. My name is Vinay. I'm the technical director at Hyvä, and this is my third time in Kiev, and by far my favorite time I've been here so far. I want to thank Perspective for having us and organizing Meet Magento Kiev, because it's been, you know, you know more than anybody that it's a challenging time, and I think it's great, and I think they did an awesome job so far, and I'm really excited. So thank you, Perspective, and thank you all for being here. Who remember these? All right, a lot of Magento 1 developers here. Awesome. And with these, yay. So now they all look like this, and they've changed a bit. And the reason why I wanted to start talking about certifications in the past is because certifications by far are not the most important thing, right? They're not the only or the best metric to score a developer. I know very good developers who have a lot of output, great results, but somehow when they go into a test scenario doing an exam, they don't do well. And that's okay. They're still great developers, right? It's not for everybody doing exams. But still, it's kind of part of our industry game. Software development, this whole certification business is huge. And our partners at Hyvä have been asking for this for a while. So we went ahead and did it. So we do think, as a developer that doesn't mind taking certifications, it can be fun to collect them and, gather all the badges. It also builds trust. So in a situation where a potential client doesn't know me, he at least can see, some credential that I'm not a complete liar and fake everything. At least, they know something about Hyvä. And especially in pitches and such, it certainly can open doors to potential clients. So we do think there is value in certifications, even though they're not the only thing. So that said, I want to introduce the new certification in town, the Hyvä Associate Developer Certification. So what does associate mean, first of all? It's kind of common, especially in the US. I wasn't familiar with the term before I started doing certification business. It means it's an entry level exam. So the idea is it can be passed even if somebody hasn't got any Hyvä experience. It does require a lot of study in that case, but just taking the documentation, it is possible to pass. And we actually checked that using AI. So we gave a model the documentation, and it was able to pass the certification. So, you don't need to work with Hyvä in order to pass this. It works. As a developer, as a human, it does demonstrate that somebody is committed to learning Hyvä and working with Hyvä. So if somebody passes it, it means they spend time on it, either through work and the documentation, most probably both. Its regular price is 200 euros. Investment to build this. So it'll be years until we actually see a return on investment. So we can't compete with Adobe on pricing. But, I still think it's fair. It's 90 minutes time and it's 60 questions. And the pass rate is 70%. Usually it's online only and proctored, so you need to clear the desk, have the camera, and while taking the test, if you look to the side too much, the proctor will interrupt and ask you to take the camera and show the room and all this stuff, just so you know. Some people were surprised by that. But you can take the certification here, probably you know, right? And I also wanted to let you know, if you already passed the certification. By the way, did anybody already do the Hyvä certification here? Yeah, congratulations. So we got t-shirts, right? So if you pass the certification or if you already are certified, please come by, grab your t-shirt. They're brand new. So, yeah, by the way, our price here for the certification is 50% off. So if you want to take it, feel free to come by. You can purchase it and I can set you up so you can take it here all day. So why did we create the certification? Well, first, yeah, we wanted to allow agencies to demonstrate their Hyvä knowledge. Many people are jumping on or companies are jumping on the bandwagon and declaring themselves Hyvä expert without actually having really done anything yet. So this is one way to distinguish that you actually know something about the product. Another purpose is that we want to encourage developers to learn more or deeper than just what is required to get the job done. So as a developer, or for many years, I was a freelance developer myself. Oftentimes there was a lot of time pressure, and I was happy when I managed to get something done and move on to the next thing. But taking the time to go a little bit deeper, understand really what is happening and how to use something and how to do something in the best way was something that, through taking the other certifications for Magento, I got inspired to do that. And it helped me a lot to actually get better as a Magento developer all over. And we hope that the same effect will happen with Hyvä too, that people are motivated to learn more. So that will also increase the quality of Hyvä builds all over. So even though I believe Hyvä is a great product, it's certainly possible to take Hyvä and ruin it, right? And just deliver a crappy site. That's very possible, as all of you know. So yeah, we want people to say people who are certified, they won't do that. They know how to deliver a Hyvä build in the best possible way. So there's a lot of focus on performance, best practice, and so on in the certification. It will also serve as a way to, when hiring new talent, certified developer, if there are two equal candidates, well, it could give an edge. So it was created by the Hyvä team, not theme, but team. We created it this year in April, actually. And it took a week, but a lot of work was done before we actually created the exam. So the first step was we created a list of topics that we want to test on. Some of these topics are generic Magento topics, like, let's say, layout XML. Right? It's not really a Hyvä thing, it's core Magento, but it's super important and we use it a lot. Other things are very Hyvä specific, or maybe CSS specific. Right? So we gathered these topics that we thought that are important, and then we gave this list of topics to partners, select partners, and asked them, how important do you think each of these topics are, especially if you're hiring new developers, like that they know these. And then based on their feedback, we weighted these topics and decided how many questions should be asked on each of these topics. Right? So each developer will be tested according to what's important. And then we had this list of how many questions we need to write. This thing isn't doing what it should be. Here we go. And then we wrote the items. That took about a week. After writing the items, the questions, we weighted the questions by difficulty and then matched them to the blueprint and determined the passing score, which is 70%. A little bit about these exam questions. So we avoided writing questions about anything that can be, as a developer, if you have IntelliSense in your IDE, that kind of autocomplete questions about file paths and so on, we don't ask about that. That's pure memorization. Everybody just gets this. Of course, generating code with AI. So we want to, I can see people. Relax. Very good. Okay. Yeah, so we don't want people to memorize file paths. So we don't ask, is it this file path or that file path? And they're very similar and you have to spot the one letter difference. That's not the type of questions we write. Of course, if you ask AI to generate a bunch of code, you can still do that, but you still will have to validate that code. So you need to understand what it actually does. So the solution how to write questions that are not pure memorization is scenario-based questions. Scenario-based questions consists of each question consists of 3 different parts. The first part is a scenario. Then you have the so-called stem, and then you have the answers or options. And the options always are 1 out of 4, 2 out of 4, or 3 out of 5. And it'll tell you exactly how many answers you need to pick. And if you get, let's say, 2 or 3 right, you need to get all of them right, basically. It's not a partial success. So each item, you either get it right or wrong. And these kind of questions, they really help against pure memorization because you need to parse the scenario to understand what's being asked. And the scenario usually points you towards the correct answer. It ends up being a better discriminator for people who know what they're doing in actual work, or don't know what they're doing and just memorize. That's why they work better than other questions. We don't write trick questions. We don't use none of the above or all of the above, or which one doesn't fail, or like no double negatives. The question should be really actionable and good to understand. So the stem, the question, is something usually like, how do you fix the issue? Or what actions do you take? Or what is the effect of this code? So they're really concrete. And another important thing I would like to mention while talking about these items are that some of the questions have qualifiers, like simplicity, keeping maintainability in mind, or compatibility. Because oftentimes there's more than one way to do something, especially in Magento. So the question is, which way should someone take to achieve a solution? And it's always a trade-off, right? Maybe it's faster to do something one way versus more maintainable to do it another way. Or maybe it's more compatible or more upgradable one way or the other way. So to choose the right approach in the answer, and multiple correct answers could technically achieve the result, but one of them will be compliant with this qualifier. So if something says these are just some of the factors that come into play when choosing one of the options, which approach to take: the budget, the time, skill of the developer, security, how many third-party modules there are, etc. So if something says keeping maintainability in mind, that usually means you should rule out any options where code is copied, because then during upgrade, you would also have to upgrade that copy of the code. Favor answers that make upgrades and changes over time easier. So that's maintainability. Compatibility usually means if you have multiple extensions working on, let's say, the product page, how can they work at the same time? So events observers, of course, are great in this regard. Anything that sets a single global value, let's say in di.xml, that makes it usually harder in regards to compatibility. So yeah, these qualifiers usually tell you which of these answers then is the actual one we're asking for. Simplicity is maybe not as intuitive. Simplicity usually means the least number of elements, where elements would be something like the least number of files, least number of functions, or XML nodes. So simplicity means just less code to read, less complexity. Okay, so I've got one example practice item here that I wrote for this slide deck. It's new, it's not in the exam. So, to be able to show the different parts of the question and talk about it a little bit. It's not the best item, but writing items is not that easy, so I hope it'll work. So I hope that's kind of readable. So the scenario is first. That's the top part here. And then here we have the stem, and we have 4 options. And it says choose one, so only one of 4 is what you need. So on a project using the Luma fallback checkout, customers report error message while checking out. Undefined variable, Hyvä CSP in some extension vendor variables PHTML file. Several third-party modules with Hyvä compatibility modules are present. How do you fix the issue? Okay, so there are several things in here that already point to the right answer. So A, ensure the compatibility modules use the Hyvä prefixed layout handles. B, add Hyvä CSP require the view model using the view model registry in the template. Or C, ensure that the default theme CSP is used as the parent theme instead of the default theme with the regular non-CSP compatible default theme. Or D, migrate the project from Luma fallback checkout to Hyvä checkout, which, that's probably the right answer, right? So anyway, so how do we pick the right answer here? So there's several talk about third-party extensions. Okay. Probably, I won't ask you now. It's just going to be awkward, people raising their hands and not wanting to talk in front of others. So yeah, let's just go ahead. The answer is A, right? It's not really hard, I think, but the difficulties depends on what people actually worked with. So the hints in the scenario are one of the Luma fallback mentioned. And if you know what the Hyvä underscore prefixed layout handle does and its purpose, which is to allow compatibility modules to manipulate the page structure and only affect Hyvä themes, while Luma themes aren't affected, right? It's the fallback theme, so somehow some Hyvä stuff slipped into a Luma theme, and this would basically fix it, right? Third-party models would be another hint. The module name, the template path was some non-Hyvä, and that's a very common error that comes up a lot in the support Slack. So, I thought maybe it might make a good example practice item. Okay, so you get the idea. Some of the options usually can be ruled out pretty easily, and then it's a matter of picking the other one. And if you look at the options and the scenario, you'll probably be able to pick the correct one. So a little bit on how to prep. To start, we have a study guide. It's linked from the product detail page as well. It's a PDF. It tells you which areas we're asking questions on. And if you go to hyvä.io/certification, you can also find a link to this PDF in there. It'll tell you how many questions are asked on each of the topics, if I remember correctly. There are a couple of other practice items. So it's not very extensive, but it'll give you a nice overview. Then actual study material, if you're starting from scratch, I would recommend the Hyvä docs. We do try to get everything that we test on that's Hyvä or Magento specific covered in the Hyvä docs. It's quite extensive. It's also really helpful to read and study a bit about front-end performance in the PageSpeed docs, for example. That's something I had to catch up a lot on, coming from being mainly a backend developer. So that's helpful. And then we, of course, assume a bit of Tailwind and Alpine knowledge. Nothing out of the world. What's probably the most unfamiliar about this to anybody who's done some Hyvä project work is that there are some questions related to CSP compatibility. Right? So especially Alpine CSP is something it's good to be familiar with. Okay, what's the difference between Alpine CSP and the regular Alpine build? Like, how do I have to write code differently so it works also with Alpine CSP? Mainly, you can't use any JavaScript expression in HTML attributes, right? Everything has to be a function because Alpine can't create new function if unsafe eval isn't allowed on a site through the content security policies. We are also working on new videos that will publish at some point in the future. It always takes a long time to get this stuff done beside regular work, but they're coming. There's also an unofficial third-party course on Udemy by Adam Varga. I haven't looked at the course, but I've heard it's quite good. So, if you're interested in other courses on Hyvä or something, you can go to his stuff too if you want to. Finally, I wanted to give a little hint. If there's a question and you have no idea, it's like something you never worked with before, you have it might happen. Magento is big, Hyvä is teeny in comparison, but it's still not that small. So first of all, the first step is obvious. Rule out any options that don't seem that are obviously wrong, right? Another good hint is go with your first idea. So if you have like, oh, maybe that's right, don't second guess yourself. Just say, okay, that was my first idea. I'll go with it. Because most of the time, interestingly, the first guess is more correct than a second guess. I don't know why, but that's just statistics, I guess. I don't know. Another nice one is some of the answers sometimes are very short and some are very long or more complicated. If you really have no clue, pick the long one because it takes more work to write, right? So it doesn't always work, but it's just about trying to fake your way through it. And finally, if you're like really want to pass the exam without studying at all or working with Hyvä, just always pick the first option or the last option. It doesn't matter. Just always pick the same option. Like they randomize answers for each person, but people do better on average picking the same answer every time instead of picking different ones. So, okay. Hopefully you won't need this, but just in case, that's something for you. Okay. Before I wrap up, there's one more thing I want to say. Who of you, quick divergence, completely different topic. Who of you knows about MageOS? Okay, a few. Okay, so MageOS is a non-profit association. It's not the Magento Association, it's separate. We set it up a few years ago. And we see ourselves as two things. First of all, it's like an insurance policy. We forked or cloned all the Magento repositories of Magento open source and built a release process to take all the code from those GitHub repositories and build composer packages out of them that are compatible with the official releases from Adobe. So, just in case, I don't think it's going to happen, but a few years ago, I was a bit more afraid. So this is basically, let's say, an insurance policy, just in case the official stuff ever goes away, we're not completely screwed. Also, we see ourselves as a tech incubator. So there are a couple of very smart and great guys working there from all over the world. And they are creating modules and functionality to try to innovate on Magento. And we're working on another distribution, which is like a different flavor of Magento, which has some of these features already in there, like AI translations, some bug fixes, using the compiled interceptors as a performance improvement. It's in there out of the box, stuff like that we think would have been beneficial to Magento for a few years already, but Adobe obviously has to be very super solid because it's the basis of Adobe Commerce. We are a little more risk friendly in building this and releasing this, and it's also fun. So we meet once a week on Tuesdays at 3 p.m. Central European time, so that would be 4 p.m. here on Discord. And check it out, mageos.org. Anyway, to promote this a bit, I got a very nice LED lamp. You can have different patterns run through this and so on. So if you're interested, please come by the Hyvä booth, I guess. So this is completely separate from Hyvä. It's nothing official Hyvä. It's just I'm also part of the board of the MageOS Association, so I thought I'd talk about it because when else? Come by, drop your business card, join the Discord, and you can win one of these lamps. They're really nice. I've got one in my room behind my desk too. Join Discord, join the meeting, see if you have fun, joining in and working alongside. It's nice. It's a nice project. Okay, and that's all I've got. Are there any questions? There's another mic.
Thanks a lot for a nice speech and thanks for creating this Good team. I have actually two questions. Is the certification lifetime, or you have to reconfirm it after some time? And if they're going to be certification in future for non-developers, for example, like business practitioner, like Adobe have? Thanks.
Those are great questions. Thanks for asking them. Yeah, I should have put those in the slides, obviously. So yes, first of all, the certification it doesn't expire, but we did put the year in the badge, right? So that was the best way. We thought that would make the most sense. Yeah, we don't require you to recertify, but yeah, people will be able to see when you took the exam. We will be building other exams. When depends a lot on how many people take this one, because it costs a lot of money. We're still a very small company, actually. So, if this is very successful, we'll build it faster. So we do want to have like a business practitioner or solution specialist exam or something for non-developers. There will also be a more professional level developer certification at one point, which yeah, we haven't figured out yet if we want to put that, as a requirement, this exam first and then the other, or if they're independent or something. It will also be part of the Hyvä partner program. So there will be points. I don't know exactly how it's going to work. That's not my area of expertise. Sanne does that, and Tien Lan and all the marketing geniuses at Hyvä. So from a certain level, a certain number of certifications will be needed in one of the partner agencies too.
Hello, Vinay. Thank you for great speech for Sim. And one question: do you plan to use contribution like Magento contribution in the past?
For Hyvä, you mean? For Hyvä?
For Hyvä, Sim.
Yes. Actually, we do already do that. Contributions are a very valuable part of our ecosystem. Because we are a commercial product, otherwise we couldn't afford building Hyvä. We do require like contributors to. If you contribute code, it's ours afterwards because otherwise we couldn't continue using it. It's not a pure open source product, right? But it's good to check first because we do have some existing contributions or existing patches and so on that haven't been released yet. So just to avoid double work, it's good to check first. And yeah, that's basically what I can say. We do like contributions. We encourage that. We think it's great. It's also one way for partners to earn points for their partner level thing. Yeah. Okay.
I learned Magento better when I was become contributor, and I am top 7 Magento contributor, and in 2021.
Congratulations, that's
and,
awesome.
I learned Magento and I passed my certification because I am contributor. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's epic. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Maybe I didn't understand your question then correctly.
Maybe only for enthusiasts. Contribution only for enthusiasts, not for full world. Only for Magento enthusiasts, Magento evangelists, maybe.
Oh, like contributions. I don't get it. I'm really sorry. Maybe it's because the microphone wasn't there all the time. Let's go. Maybe you can come by to the booth and we can talk later. Okay. Thank you. Okay. I think we're out of time, so I think we have to close it up. But I'll be in front of the wall where the big wall saying certifications now. Come today. And yes, by the way, please do come today and take your certification. Half price. One time offer. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.